Wukusu, peace, black power, and welcome to Harlem Liberation School's YouTube channel. Harlem Liberation School is a black nationalist, pan-African community organization based in Harlem. We provide relevant and credible political education to help black people wake up, clean up, and stand up, in the words of Brother Malcolm X. To do this, we provide panel discussions, political commentary, mini documentaries, leadership tips, classes, and interviews with some of our most dedicated and effective leaders, activists, and intellectuals around the world. Peace and Black Power families, Brother Agyei Tyehimba from Harlem Liberation School, where, as you all know by now, we teach black people to wake up, clean up, and stand up. Brother Malcolm's 3-part call to action for what we got to do, and it covers everything. Wake up, meaning develop our liberatory consciousness, being aware of who we are, where we come from, right? What our purpose on this planet is, so we're not drifting around like feathers in the wind, but we have direction and clarity. Cleanup meaning to be self-corrective, to address our flaws as individuals and as a people, the ways in which we're backwards, the things we do to get in our own way, right? And then finally, to stand up, to exert leadership, to do something about the things we disapprove of in our communities, in our homes, in our organizations, and to make a difference, to leave a legacy of not just being disgruntled, but a legacy of activism, protest, institution building, nation building, these type of activities. We thank Baba Malcolm for leaving that level of analysis, simple and plain. Anybody can understand, wake up, clean up, stand up. We thank him for that. Family, as you know, these second Wednesdays are very important to me personally and to my co-host on these broadcasts as well, Brother Bomani. I think I speak for both of us, but mostly for me when I say that this issue of our political prisoners is so important. It's kind of like you can't say you love your parents and you don't check on them, right? You can't say you love your kids and you ain't checking on them. Well, look, we can't say the names of these people that have been locked away in the white man's dungeons, that have been oppressed and persecuted many times just for their ideas, family. And we don't check on them. It's something about that that's inconsistent. I saw that in myself. I was like, you know what? I got to personally do a better job. I got to be more connected to this issue. I got to be more present on this issue. So when I thought about this and I was talking to Brother Bomani, I said, man, this is the perfect brother right here. Brother Bomani, we gotta do a monthly piece where we have time to address these issues of our political prisoners, because it's a statement. It's a statement when you say, if you mess with them, you messing with me, right? You're not going to just do stuff to them and get away without us addressing it. We got eyes on this situation. We got people on this situation. We're connected. You'd be surprised that I've been in the hospital in emergency rooms, and I've seen how people with no family there checking on them get treated versus the people that coming in got people with them family. It's a difference. They know people watching them, know that people are going to hold them accountable. And this is why this broadcast is so important. We have to hold ourselves accountable and admit, like I did, I'm talking this, but I'm not living up to this part, the political prisoner piece. We got to all be honest with ourselves. Where can we do better? And immediately make provisions to do better. And we don't have to do everything ourselves. When I'm looking around, I said, who is qualified to really co-host this broadcast? And I said, man, my brother Bomani, he's on it. He's on that. His name rings all around the country. People know who he is, what he's about. He got pictures with all of these greats, man. Many of them behind the wall. This is what he does. So we brought him on, and I'm going to bring him on now. We're pleased to have him. Let me bring my good brother on, Brother Bomani Shakur in the building.
Free the land, brother. Revolutionary Greeter. How you doing, brother?
Oh man, I'm great, brother. Good to see you for another go round with this, man. The political prisoner report. How you doing, brother?
I'm strong, safe, and sane, brother. You know what I'm saying? It's always a pleasure to great the airways with you, man. Be on their broadcast, man. Also share my knowledge and understanding. It's
No
always
doubt.
a pleasure, man, to be of use to the people.
Hey man, yo, that's what it's all about. I don't know about you, Bomani. I sense that you have you're not nobody's chump, you're not nobody's sucker, but you have a level of humility that I sense. Um, I'm sure
Yeah,
that people tell you all the time, oh, brother Bomani, you was breaking it down, brother Bomani, this and that. And I'm sure that you find yourself saying, thank you, but you'll say, man, I'm passing on what was passed on to me, right?
no doubt,
See what I'm
no doubt.
saying? So like what we're doing is beautiful and it's important. But I think about this all the time. I get emails, people send me texts and all this and that, and I say, man, man, I learned from some beautiful Africans, bro, that loved us so much they dedicated their lives to us. And what we're doing is passing on what they gave us. I was at a repast with my queen, a sister in the neighborhood. Her mother died. We went, and I run into a brother there that went to this particular university I went to, where I met Baba Dr. James Turner, and we were talking about him. Everywhere I go, it seems like there's somebody that knew Baba James Turner. It's like, so to me, it's a spiritual mission too. We're doing a much higher work. I don't know if we always appreciate. We're doing a very important work, not just even for Black people. The work we're doing is going to move the world, man, in different ways. Well, anyway, let me stop running my mouth. I see we got some comments. Let me get to Brother Bomani is saying long live Mama Assata Shakur. Absolutely. We got Sugar Hill Community Collective. That's the queen. She's saying with kudos to the family. Peace and blessings to Brother Bomani. And thank you for that. And we are going to get started, family. I got some questions. Y'all know this is like a half hour, family, so we're gonna get right to it. Brother Bomani, I guess the first question would be if you could jump right into it, tell us what led what was sister what organization was Sister Assata Shakur in, and what led her to be convicted, and what was she convicted of?
Well, at the time period, the sister was a part of the Black Liberation Army. You know, the Black Liberation Army was an underground formation that was geared toward military, self defense needs of the people, right? And also geared toward the aspect of nation building. You know, so on the day of May the 10th, 1973, Mama Sada Shakur, uh, the answer Zaid Malik Shakur, and Baba Sundar Kohli was on New Jersey Turnpike headed on. They headed out of town, so to speak, right? So they were pulled over, you know, by the pigs, and he called the state trooper, and that resulted in pig being murdered and Asada going to court. Baba Sundar Kohli. They going to court and they were sending to prison time. You know, so they accuse her of as well as Baba Sundar Kohli of murdering the pig. So they both got charged with murder. You know,
Hmm.
both charged got murder, and also the commission of act was a political act, so they became prisoner of war. But the Black Liberation Army prisoner, they both were new African citizens as well. So they became new African political new African prisoners of war. So they're basically in a nutshell, you know, what happened. Of course, it's
Right.
more, you know, they basically in a nutshell, you know.
Now, it's my understanding that her in this interaction with these state troopers, those of us, particularly in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, if you know about the 70s and 80s, you know the New Jersey Turnpike was a very rough place for Black people to travel through, particularly at that time. Now we know that her clavicle, if I'm correct, her clavicle was broken on the side where she had. Let's say if she's right-handed, that was the clavicle broken. So they were able to prove her defense. I believe that she couldn't have even raised the gun. That she was shot and her clavicle was broken. They found
Yeah.
no gun residue on her hand or clothing. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. The only thing they found on her was bullets and a magazine in her bag, right? Whereas, you know, the case is very controversial when you think about it because um, the only person they find, the only person that they basically found with a gun, so to speak, was up under them in their hand. They said some say it was in their hand, some was on their leg. They said that was Agyei Malik, right? And those same bullets and gun resonate, you know what I'm saying, with the pig being murdered. You know, so it was basically like from the jump, it was harassment out the jump because um the pig tried to say it was something wrong with that tail light. Really wasn't nothing wrong with that tail light. He just wanted to harass them because he's saying do our people out there. Like you said, it was a racial thing anyway. So it was harassment out the jump. But in the midst of that, you know, like um, it wasn't really known. It wasn't criminally known or legally known to say that she had shot somebody. She actually had her hands up. She had her hands up, and she got shot. She got shot with her hands up. So you get how you gonna shoot with your hands up and actually shoot somebody? If you got your hands up, you got shot yourself, right? Then it also, you know, we look at it, it wasn't a fair trial for many reasons because she had 15 jurors there, all of them were white, 10 old women, and 5 old white men. You know that it was a biased jury, so you're supposed to have a jury of your peers to go in front of the court of a jury trial. So that's a violation. You know, so it was a whole bunch of other violations. Then in the midst of her trial, one of her attorneys mysteriously got killed in her apartment. So that's crazy too as well. You know, there's a lot of things that were taking place. You know, they're doing their trial. A lot of things were taking place. You know, doing that, man. So it was a bunch of chaos behind the whole situation. You know, a whole bunch of
Yeah,
things were taking place
that's right.
during the trial.
For those of y'all
So
watching, we want y'all to be clear. Because some of our people, man, we come up with a million reasons why not to believe our fight our warriors. And I just want to be clear. All I'm gonna use the language that we see on the true crime shows. All the forensics basically would show and prove she could not have shot the gun. She could not have
yes,
killed. She could not have possibly killed the state trooper she was accused of killing. Okay, so let me
yeah,
say that. So also, if you read her book Assata, her autobiography, she kind of goes through how she was treated once they captured her. And we know Huey P. Newton went through similar stuff, and we know that Steve Biko went through. They had her, they got a handcuff to the hospital bed, and they poking her in her wounds and shit.
yeah,
Family, this is how they do. I want you to be real clear. This is what they did to this woman. Poking in the wounds, talking stuff. Yeah, we killed your boy. Saying, yeah, we killed your so-called comrade, that type of stuff to get you those psychological warfare. She's hurt. She probably was a little scared, anxious, like what's gonna happen to me? What happened to my comrades? So they're messing with her, right? I think they may have put something in her eye, burned her eye, if I'm correct. I could be wrong about that. But this is all going on. But she didn't do what they accused her of doing. So now when the brothers come and break her out of prison, there's a few ways you can look at that. Wow, you're not supposed to break nobody out of prison. Well, hold on. You're not supposed to falsely arrest nobody innocent either. Right? So what we supposed to let her languish in there for 40, 50 years and hope she got out on appeal. So just so you understand, those are the actual facts. Okay. Now, having said that, what led to her to be convicted? The brother answered it. He said that she was railroaded. He said the whole thing was a sham. Y'all say
yeah,
it can't be possible. It happens all the time. You heard of the Innocence Project? You know how many people they freed that were innocent, completely innocent. And if it wasn't for them going and getting DNA evidence, these people would be doing life. This is commonplace, right, Brother
yeah,
Bomani?
yeah. Yes, it
So,
is.
so just understand that. Okay, family. Now, why did she flee? Okay, no, but Bomani, take us through after she was liberated uh from prison. I believe she stayed in the States for 2 3 years underground, and then she fled to Cuba. Could you explain to people why she went to Cuba and why was she able to go to Cuba? That's another history lesson too.
Okay. I'll be remiss to say that they actually murdered Zayed Malik Shakir as well during the incident. They murdered him, right? I just had to say that he got murdered as well. He's a martyr. Okay. Well, they liberated the sister November the 2nd, 1979, right? And this day is known as a Mama Assata Shakur Day, right? But it also what a day, what they call Black Solidarity Day that were going on as well among the original people African, New African Independent with Black Nation Movement. They was kind of Black Solidarity Day. We're talking about political career and things of that nature as well, right? So these various comrades from different formations liberated her, right? Liberated her that day and freed her. So in the midst of being freed and liberated from this containment camp, this prison system, right? She continued to function underground because she was functioning underground before even before the incident happened. She was underground already, right? So she continued to function underground, and she basically realized that during that time period, even before it happened, she already had a mission going to become a political asylum anyway. Political asylum is basically a legal aspect that you can be welcomed to another country if you're dealing with political issues or persecution from another country, right? So it's a legal right, international. It's an international right that the United Nations has up under what they call the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They were created in 1948. They created that document in 1948. So she had a right to get that political asylum. It been very people had political asylum all throughout the year from Robert Williams, from Huey Newell, from Dr. Muhammad Ahmad, from Barbara Herman Ferguson. Various people don't have political asylum throughout the year, right? Mama Nahana did with Upadon. The list goes on and on. So it's a legal thing. It's legal. And also and Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It talks about you have a right to self-determination. You have a right to nationality. You have a right to you have a right to you have a right to fight against your persecutor. They treat you wrongly, right? And it also said that slavery shouldn't exist. See, that's the key. It says slavery shouldn't exist, right? Now, according to the 13th Amendment, if you commit a crime, you go back to slavery. Human rights said slavery shouldn't exist. It doesn't have no clause on it at all. It is no clause on it. There is no clause on universal human rights, right? So, so in the midst of that Valiant Act that took place in regard to the liberation, it was all in accordance to the United. It was all according to international law. It was all according to it when they brought it at the end of the day. They liberated her, and and she went to Cuba, and then when she returned to her essence in Cuba. You know what I'm saying?
Now,
Over 30
Brother
something.
Bomani, I gotta interrupt real quick because I want to make sure the listeners get this. I want to show them an example of critical thinking and why the political education is important. Why Cuba? Could you help people understand why did she go to Cuba? And maybe another brother I have in mind that helped. There were people before her that helped to create Cuba as a type of a relationship where she could run there and be treated hospitably. Could you explain why she went to Cuba specifically?
Oh, she went to Cuba because Cuba has been supportive of new Africans and the Africans for decades. It had been supporting them for decades in the early 60s. In fact, one of the people that met with Fidel Castro in the early 60s was Malcolm X. And they talked about all those different things in regard to exiles and the Cubans and new Africans working together and different things of that nature, right? So Cuba had already been accepting of certain people. They had been accepting the people already. In fact, Robert Williams had been there as an exile. Huey Newton had been in the exile. Another individual had been in exile even before she became an exile. So they were already supportive of it already. They were supportive of the struggle of New Africans in America. You know, they were supporting our struggle. They were supporting the Black liberation movement, New African independent movement. They supportive all that. They understand exactly who we are, and they understand that we live in the seat of imperialism right here in America. They understand that, so they always supported our movement. They supported our ideas and concepts, our ideology. They always supported our struggle for independence. So she was welcome there.
That's right. And that's important, family, because we understand networking on a level of, hey, brother, so how we having this thing come through? Could you bring this? Same concept, but now we talking about we networking with nations. We got relationship with heads of nations who are saying, if y'all get in trouble with the racist imperialist United States of America, and you can get to a plane or you can get to a boat, you can come here and we got your back and we will fight for you and you'll be protected here. And we know that's real with Cuba. Why do we know that's real? Because Sister Assata was there for 40 years, Brother Bomani?
Yep.
About 40 years. They had her, and listen, the FBI was trying to get her extradited back to the United States as recently as 2010, 12.
Yeah.
Right? $2 million bounty.
Yeah, $2 million
and
bounty.
Cuba said, what? You come here, we fighting. You come here, we're fighting. We're not letting her go. They never gave her up. They never betrayed her. Right? Cuba is what we might call an Afro-Latino country.
Yes, exactly.
So we had elders before Assata that was politicking, that was having conversations, that was teaching people about their history, and that were forming very important networks so that Sister Assata, and as you said, Robert F. Williams and many others were able to benefit from what elders had laid down. Is that right? Just like we can go to certain spaces in our hoods because of who we know, because of who our parents or our OGs were, right? We can go to certain spaces, not because we all that sometimes, but because people laid the way. That's he's with me. He's with me. So we had a sort of protection. If we can understand that on the basic level, think about how powerful that is when we network nationally and form those international connections. That's really powerful to me. I mean, that really is that she's able to do that because of people like Malcolm, and you even had people like what's my good brother used to sing opera? What's her name? Paul Robeson. You had people that was traveling around the country, and they were socialists and nationalists, Pan-Africanists that were having conversations with people. Malcolm's in so-called Middle East having conversations with people in Cuba, in Western Africa. So these are people that we just associate with giving good speeches. No, family. These people were laying foundations for other people to benefit from. And that's a beautiful thing, man. We need to really, that's a very important part of our political education. Anyway, how would you say, when we think of international law and we think of Sister Assata, what do you think, Brother Bomani, are the important points that come up as we talk about Assata fleeing, political asylum, and international law, as you see it?
I look at it like she had the right to self-determination. In international law, you had a right to self-determination, right? You have a right to be free. You have a right to be liberated. Those are standpoints in the regular human rights of the United Nations. You have those rights. Just like she said, she's a new African. You have a right up on the international law. You have a right to do that. So to me, all of those things stand out in regards to who she is as an individual, who she is as an ancestor, who she was as an elder, who she was as a mother, who she was as a freedom fighter. They all stand out. They all stand out to me. She fought for what she believed in. Assata means she who struggled. She struggled for what she believed in. She struggled for independence. So All that makes sense to me in regard to international law. So it's compatible. It's tantamount to each other in regard to what international law says. We have various rights under international law. And international law is basically like an agreement of all the different countries agreeing to certain things, right? They're agreeing to be a part of the United Nations. Now, when we think about that, right, since Trump been in office, he has asked the United States to resign from the United Nations. So he want so the international law won't pertain to the people over here. He asked for the United States to be taken out of this. So international law, so internationally, the things that occurred in America, they wouldn't be considered to be crimes because we wouldn't be a part of the United States wouldn't be a part of the United Nations. That's something to think about from a political and education and intellectual standpoint. Why were they done? He also asked to remove from the World Health Organization, was also an organization that worked with the United Nations as well, which is an international aspect as well. So we got to think about those things. Why certain things happen politically over here and how they affect the international, how they affect the world. Now yeah.
Good points, Brother Bomani. Let me ask you this. Since this show is the Political Prisoner Report, some people might still have a question. Was Assata Shakur a political prisoner? How would you respond to that?
Yes, she was a political prisoner. She was a New African prisoner of war. Because she got locked up as a political activist, as a political member of the Black National Army. She got locked up as an act that resulted in a shootout between the Black National Army and the government. So that was a political act. And then upon her being captured and or as what they want to say they when they came and got her, they came and retrieved her. She became a political exile, new African political exile then. So, international law, she was a political exile anyway, so she was already a political prisoner. In order to be a political exile, you gotta be a political prisoner already anyway. In order to be a political exile. They go hand in hand in international law. The only way you get exiled is being having a political case. You can't go for political exile without a political case. They want to self you because they're not part of the law. So you got to be in a political situation to be accepted another country for political exile. That's the only way it happens. So it just about people doing research, doing the investigation to get a better understanding of what's going on, so they'll know that.
Now, Brother Bomani, you work with, you support, you're behind several campaigns to help some of our living political prisoners get released, have people writing to them, have people supporting them in various ways. Why does Assata Shakur, kind of like Mumia Abu Jamal, we talked about him last episode, there's certain names that just seem to really resonate. And they're not saying they're any more important than anybody else, but for some reason, Assata Shakur's story resonates so powerfully. During this Black Lives Matter movement, if you want to call it that, we had many of our sisters and our brothers wearing shirts that said, Assata taught me. What Assata taught them, I'm not sure of, but I was very impressed that they had her name associated with something positive like that. People are familiar with her picture. It's behind me, the iconic Assata with the afro. And that was when taken in a prison cell that was on the cover of her autobiography. Why does her name and story ring so loudly long after her escape from prison and almost, a year after she's died? What accounts for that, do you think?
But for one, she was labeled the mother hen of the Black National Army. That was by the state that labeled her that, right? And that was the first thing. And then the second thing I say is that when she became liberated, she became a symbol of resistance. She remained free from the time of liberation to the time of her demise. She became a spirit of resistance, right? She became a living spirit of resistance. A lot of times we talk about spirit of resistance, people like George man, or Denmark, Big Gabriel Prosser, they were spirit of resistance, but Mama Assata Shakur was a living spirit of resistance that shows us that we can overcome and defeat the oppressor. We can overcome and defeat the capitalists, the imperialists. So she's a symbol of resistance worldwide, international. And not only that, she brought a lot of new African culture to Cuba, especially in regards to the Black August aspect they were dealing with down in Cuba, her Mama Nahani Abdoon, the aspects of the new African independent movement, other aspects, Black Revolution Army. She brought a lot of those things with her, and also people that knew her came to visit her, and also brought culture, ideas, and concepts down to the Cuba as well in regard to Christian relationship with people. So she the spirit of resistance, and that spirit of resistance lives forever. Like I was saying, like I did mention, Conrad George, MRV, Gary Prosser. Someone died in 1800, someone died in 1900. Spirit of resistance. So she represent that. She represent a strong womanhood. She represent a beautiful, intelligent, wise, strong woman who were comfortable within herself. The other sisters can go to. They can look to her story like that. Like the sister was involved with street things. She was involved in culture things. She went to school. She was educated. She put all to the side, joined the movement. She committed herself to her family, to the community, to the nation. In fact, she sacrificed herself to the nation to be a political exile to take away from her family. So the sister very powerful. That story is very, very intimate and very important to the mind and mass of the people in regard to being significant. It's very influential, right? To see a beautiful woman, an intelligent woman, a powerful woman, be successful in her endeavors, you know what I'm saying, and fought what she believed in. She never gave up. She never gave up on what she believed in. She always fought for everything. Then she always sailed at the top. If the sister was shooting, she'll become the top shooter. If the sister educated, she'll become the top educator. Whatever she did, she excelled at it, right? And this showed the greatness within African sister around the world, man. So that's why she's an international figure. That's why she was the spirit of resistance, because she resisted to the end. She would never catch it again. And then the place she was at, they never gave up a win. So it showed solidarity all around. So it did so much about the sister that influential, you know what I'm saying? From her poetry. She was a poet. From her writings, from her political education, her teaching, from the sister blogging, from her documentaries, from her engaging into the culture of the people where she at, and regards to Santeria and Paulo and EFI and all the different things that she engaged into while she was there, engaged in bringing the aspect of Black August to Cuba, present that, as well to others, present the aspect of Black August, talking about political prisoners, having events, introducing them to music that New African do, so forth and so on, right? She's just a great woman, just a great woman, a great inspiration. And she actually committed herself to a legacy that was already propelling before she even, as a dedication to Agyei Malik Shakur, she already dedicated herself to a family that were already putting the work in already previous anyway, the Shakur family. So that's a legacy. And go back to Sheikh Saladin Shakur, that's a legacy. They didn't tell the Black Revolutionary movement, the Pan-African movement, the Islamic movement, and also the New African Independent movement, well, the prison movement, right?
That's right.
So it's just a lot of information, man. Sister gonna live forever. She's gonna live forever.
Yeah.
She was already.
And you know what?
She was already for her demise. She was a legend already. She's gonna live forever.
I think, Brother Bomani, too, man. First of all, that was a very good breakdown in response to the question. I would only add that I think, and you actually touched on that, the fact that she was still writing a blog from Cuba. So we got to read that. The fact that she's in a documentary when she's in Cuba, we got, I think it's called Rainbow. I forget, do you remember the name of it? It's called Rainbow something. And she wrote the book, that autobiography. I remember when I first read it in the 80s, I was like, whoa. We read Malcolm's autobiography. Malcolm's autobiography woke a lot of people up, man. But we want to know, well, what was up with the sisters? What was the sisters' experience like? And she gave us that kind of window to her world. And that book, like Malcolm's book did, that book brought a lot of people into the movement. a lot of people, if you talk to how'd you get into the movement, they're gonna tell you in terms of books, they're gonna say, oh, Brother Malcolm. They might say Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. They might say Message to the Black Man in America by Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And they might say Assata, because that her story was so powerful. And you know, it's funny. I taught at the Borough Manhattan Community College, this class called Modern Black Political Thought. And I was telling the students that right in this school is where Assata Shakur went to school, Borough Manhattan Community College. And the mascot you got, the name you got, is the BMCC Panthers. Who thinks you know why it's the Panthers? They didn't know that was named after, in honor of her, because she was a Black Panther. So she touched so many spaces, is what I'm trying to say. And the book and the films and the blogs, she told her own story. I say that, family, to say that if you're doing something of importance and you want to make sure that future generations know where your mind was at, why you did what you did, writing books and films and blogs are very important ways. And I want to say this too. She had integrity. At a time where everybody's telling you what they ate, how many times they farted, where they going, where they at, telling all their business on social media, she wrote a whole book. She never tell you how she broke out of jail, did she? She never tell you exactly how they did it, did she? And she tells you, I'm deliberately not telling you that because I know the enemy reads our books. And the enemy's going to read our book and to know what we do. No, so she didn't, she knew she was on code. She knew how to shut her mouth. We're not going to tell you how they broke me out of jail. Figure it out. Join the movement and you'll figure it out. Just like Harriet and Underground Railroad figured it out. They're not going to tell you how they did it, right? So it's a lot to her that I think we can learn from. She had revolutionary integrity. She knew what to say and what you got to figure that out. I'm not going to dry snitch on the movement. You know what I'm saying? That's deep to me. Because I remember reading like that. She didn't say how she yeah, she didn't say how she did it. I was really young. My father said, of course she didn't say how she did it. That's smart. And then so that's another thing that we can learn from is when to talk and when to you got to go join the movement and figure that out. Like every generation of revolutionaries had to. Anything you want to add on to that, Brother Bomani? Because we're closing out.
Yeah. I want to say one thing, man, that I greatly admired about her was that she was a person that critically thought for herself. She never did agree just to anything, just to agree with it, regardless of the odds. If it didn't make sense to her logical wise, or it didn't make sense to her in her mind, she didn't agree to it. She was a very inquisitive person, very opinionated, but she understand the aspects of protocol and laws and concepts and ideas, right? And she was a leader within herself. She understand what being a leader was, but she also understand that being a leader, it meant your service to the people. And I yield.
Yes, sir. We are here with Brother Bomani Shakur. This is Harlem Liberation School, Black Political Education Center. This is our monthly broadcast, the Political Education Report. I'm here on these broadcasts, our co-host, and he's doing the heavy lifting, family. Just be clear. I'm asking the questions, but Brother Bomani's doing the heavy lifting. Amongst other things, one of his specialties is dealing with the issue of our political prisoners. And so we thank you for joining us. We're getting ready to end. These shows are about half an hour, family. So you got to get here on time if you're going to catch it live. If not, please go back to the recorded version once we end and watch it in its entirety. I have to tell you, Brother Bomani, I did a live broadcast on Facebook, and I broke down when I had just found out that she had passed, and I just broke down. A lot of people, I understand, broke down. And say, hey man, don't feel bad. That wasn't soft. That wasn't weak. I cried too, or I felt and I wanted to get on a personal tip for me why I was kind of personally moved. I never met Assata Shakur. I wrote a poem in her tribute, but I never met her. I read about her. I had elders who actually were active with her, but I never met her. So I'm like, why am I so shaken? And what I think it was is that she represented hope. You know, she represented the sister that got away clean, man. She got away. She didn't languish in the prison and she's dying of some disease and she's all malnourished and be beating her up. She got away in her prime.
Yeah.
That's something. She got away in her relative youth and was able to live out her life in Cuba. Now, granted, she was estranged from her daughter. Her daughter was here in the States. Her family, she had to leave them behind, but she lived there and she did well. Family, she was in Cuba. She was taken care of. She was teaching. She was organizing. She was doing poetry. She was living, right? And she loved it there from all accounts. And so when she died, it was almost like your auntie, you know, your favorite auntie that was active and she did stuff and she got away. She was like the female version of Robert F. Williams. Got away. And Mabel Williams, he lived to be 75 something years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
bucking shots in North Carolina. He gets away to Cuba, to China, I think Tanzania, comes back. He's an old man. He dies of old age. So when
Yeah.
we see that, we go, wow, man, finally. So that I think when she died, I feel like that all of that wrapped up was like, it's the end of an era. You know, so many of our elders from that generation are gone. But did it affect you personally, Bomani? And if so, how and why do you think? I'm curious to know.
Well, it affected me, man. I was like, in um, the same way we talk about the spirit of resistance, right? You know, yeah, this is where I looked at it. I was saying that, you know, she already been the spirit of resistance. She gonna live forever anyway. So, like, irregardless of dying of natural causes, right? It's not a time to be sad. It's a time to rejoice that she remained free the whole time, and her spirit of resistance gonna live forever because she was an example that we can overcome oppression. She was an example that we can win. Like you said, she was an example of
Right.
hope. And the spirit of resistance gonna live forever. So uh, we just gain another ancestor that we can tap into and look to gain more power. Just like they did during the Haitian Revolution. You know, they tapped into the answer to gain power before they waged comeback and gain the independence. So, you know, I looked at it from that aspect, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a certain aspect like, okay, I might have felt disappointed or upset at the time period, but she wasn't assassinated. It was a natural causes. Then her spirit gonna live forever. So I became joyful. I became peaceful. I like this beauty. I became peaceful. Like now we got another person to channel to. You know, people were channel to already, and now more people gonna know about her. See, that was the thing. Her death and demise brought the awareness that other people gonna know about her now, especially the new generation of people they're still in high school, still in elementary school, some going to college. They're gonna learn about her now. They're gonna know about her
Mhm.
now, but because her name was all over the news, they're like, who is this woman that the government put a $2 million ban on? Why was she so important? Why was she so significant? What did she actually do? And they're gonna inspire and encourage other individuals to pick up the torch and do the work. So it was a rejoicing moment to me. Even though I felt a certain way about it at first, and I rejoiced at it, and I thought about it. And I thought about what
Yeah.
she used logic. She was a logical thinker. That's why she always challenged everything she fought. She was very challenging. Even when she first got her African name that Republic of Africa gave her, she challenged that name because she understand what it mean at that time. So she did chose a name. She chose a name that resonated with her and her connections. So that let me know, you know, I got to think logical as well. You know, that's an example of logical critical thinking. And that what she was until her demise. You know, a critical thinker,
Sure.
a leader, an
Mhm.
intellectual leader, you know, an activist leader, a leader who was active in the work. And what is an intellectual leader? You know, so I channeled to that same energy and applied my own self that way. Like I'm just gonna rejoice at it. So we got another ancestor to look at. We got more inspiration, more power to bring into our existence because we're spiritual by nature. You know, that was separate us from a lot of the oppressor that we had that spiritual ability, that spiritual power. We always talk about spiritual resistance for hundreds of years. You know, the spirit of that time is still encouraged and inspires us. The spirit of DMRV still inspires. The spirit of Harry Thomas spirit is encouraged and inspires us. The spirit of Shaka Zulu,
Right.
spirit of Queen Thing, and so forth and so on. These folks been dead 1,000 years, but they still inspire us to move forward. They still inspire to fight. They still inspire to educate ourselves. They still inspire to organize, to agitate. They still inspire to propagate. Just like we're doing right now. Like if you think about it, Robert Williams, when he was in Cuba, he ran a radio show. He also put out publications. You know, he still and continued to propagate while he was in Cuba. He still had to do the
Right.
work for. He still continued to do the work for Revolution Action Movement around. He still continued, you know what I'm saying, to broadcast. Yeah, what happened to new people all around the world. He still continue to do that. You know, that's what we're doing right now. We propagate in the spirit of Robert Williams, the
Right.
spirit of Mama South. We propagating right now. Two people that was in political exile in Cuba. The place we talking about, you know, the people we talking about. So everything resonate and makes sense to me. Now, yeah.
That's right. Thank you
Well,
for that. I see.
got one more thing.
Yes, sir.
For those who are listening, Elder Aluk Bashir goes on parole July the 16th, and we're asking people to get their letters in at least by July the 1st and no longer than July the 7th. Also, if you can't write no physical letter, you can send a letter through email to his attorney as well. And if you need
So,
information, contact me, Bomani Shakir on Facebook, a New African Information Movement on Instagram.
so brother Bomani, that said, our next episode is scheduled for July 8th. Why don't we um make that episode specifically about supporting our good brother and actually give people everything they need during that show to send off the letters or whatever. Do we need to move the date up? This is the 8th of July.
Uh, we can discuss that. I think we do. We can discuss that though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I think
that'd be hot. And just have them give them all information on that particular broadcast, and maybe we can, get some people to start writing letters, doing what they need to do right on that, right while we're talking.
no
That would be
doubt,
hot.
no doubt.
We'll,
Yeah, we
we'll
can do
chop
that.
it
Yeah,
up and we'll figure it out, right?
no doubt. We can do
All
that.
right. Family, we want to thank you all. First, thank Brother Bomani for always being prepared to answer all these questions and knock them out the park. That's a beautiful thing. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Family, I gotta say this. This has nothing to do with anything we talk about, but I gotta say it. After 53 years of being the joke of the NBA, their last championship was won when I was 5 years old. The New York Knicks did it this year. The Queen and I were holding watch parties right in our neighborhood of our birth and where we live now in Harlem. And hundreds of Africans and New Africans was coming out, right, babe? To see that on a big screen we set up in a projector. And though it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, yet it is still a form of community organizing. These events where we bring people together, use whatever the appetite is, and get them out and talk about solidarity. And the same way the Knicks work together, know when to pass the ball. They don't hog it all up. They don't say I did this all by myself. They realize they had help. Everybody plays positions. The same thing we do in revolution and in organizing. So we're taking that appetite to see New York win the Knicks, and we're converting that into movie nights, open mic poetry, right in the hood with stages, bringing the people out. We're gonna be signing them up for organization, right, babe? We're gonna be signing them up, right? So I want y'all to be creative with this. You don't have to be There's many ways you can get the people out, family. And there's many ways you can get their ear, but use their appetites. Use the things that resonate with them, and then show them how what you feeling resonates with working together in real ways beyond sports. Right. So I just want to shout out the New York Knicks. I want to shout out all of the people all throughout the country that was cheering for them, or even the Spurs. And I want to say to us, if we can come out and do watch parties, and we can do all these things to get high, we do all these things. Let's get our money together for the liquor. Let's get our money together and send it to the political prisoners that need commissary. Let's organize and let's get 200 black people out, and let's get them with paper and pens and scripts of what to write, and let's have them write letters to the people that fought for them, that got caught behind enemy lines and are doing time many times, and they've done no crime. They just were thinking as revolutionaries. I'm trying to tell you, family, what we do for things that aren't as serious, we can do for things that are extremely serious. It's got to be creative. That's all I wanted to say with that, family. Thank you all for watching. We're gonna be back on next month. We're gonna get our pen. We're gonna write our letters to support our brother's parole. Is that right, Brother Bomani?
Yes, sir. True indeed.
Yeah, we're gonna activate y'all, man. It's time to get activated. That's what we're gonna do. We ain't doing this just to talk. All right. So, family, thank y'all for joining us. We're gonna see you next time. If you came late, that's okay. In about 10 minutes, this will be recorded. You can come back and watch the whole thing. Go through the description section. There's different links you can check out, and join us again for our next episode. It might be a different date, so stay tuned, because we want to make sure that we coordinate it with this campaign that Brother Bomani is talking about. With that said, family, free the land, Black Power, Kusu. Brother Bomani, thanks again, man. And we'll see y'all next time, family.
Peace. Thank you, brother. Peace.